Leslie from Just Less Creations. I am so excited to be back doing another Tutorial Tuesday here in our Just Less Creations Facebook page. Today we're going to tackle the penguin. Isn't he just so darn cute? We're going to take all the elements and break it apart into manageable pieces so that you too can make this cake pop for all of your winter themes or just Antarctic themes or snow themes or whatever penguins that you just love to add a penguin to your cake pop repertoire. Your fans are going to love it. Your family and friends are going to just like go, so cute. So let's go ahead and get started. All
right, I'm going to take my cake pop dough. I'm really going to squeeze it. I don't want air bubbles in my dough, so I'm just going to squeeze it, and then I'm going to roll it in my natural direction. If you're left-handed, it would probably be clockwise or counterclockwise. If you're right-handed, I'm rolling in a clockwise direction, and I'm going to squeeze it and really put pressure. I want to make sure that that cake pop dough comes together. All right, so as I'm putting pressure and rolling in my natural direction, I'm going to feel it come together. And then once it comes together, I'm going to use a light finger touch and go the opposite direction. That'll make a nice round ball. It usually, I don't know the science behind it, but boy, it works. It really does. All right, so now that I have my ball, I got cake pop dough on my thumb, hold on. All right, so I want to create, let me give you my penguin here. Let's take a look at him here first. So I have a round ball. I want this egg shape for my penguin. Now, if you want to make, now this little guy here is taller, so you would obviously make him longer in the body, but we're just going to make this little fat egg-shaped guy. So first thing I'm going to do is take and use my finger and my thumb, and I'm going to create where his head is at. I'm just going to do, now when I'm talking about molding cake pops, anytime you're putting pressure on your cake pop dough, do it in little tiny increments. Like, you don't want to squeeze it all the way where it needs to go right away, because you're just going to crack your cake pop dough, and that in the long run will cause it to fall off your cake pop. All right, so I'm just using little tiny squeezing motion increments to create where his neck will be. As you can see, I'm starting to create that egg shape, little tiny squeezes. All right, and then I'm just going to smooth out his head. Like, it was rounded on the top, and as I'm squeezing, it creates this bump here. I want to smooth that out, just using my fingers. All right, and then I'm just going to smooth out all the way down to the bottom. I'm just rolling them in my hands and gently putting pressure to smooth it. I just want a nice smooth. Okay, let's go back. So now I'm going to take my lollipop stick that I've already pre-dipped in my white chocolate, and I'm going to just dip the tip in my melted chocolate in my bowl. And I'm going to push it in, and I'm going to spin it clockwise at the same time. That chocolate's going to mix with my cake pop dough. I'm going to feel friction. I'm going to spin it until I feel that friction, and once I feel it, I'm going to turn it a quarter of a turn back. That chocolate then becomes the glue, and then I'm just going to smooth out any marks, finger marks, because I've been holding it. And then I'm going to take that excess chocolate off the bottom, and then I'm going to sit it aside and let it firm up. Let's do that other one real quick. All right, and now we'll put those two aside. I want to allow these two cake pops, the chocolate, to start firming up on the inside. Now, what I did not mention that I should have probably mentioned is my cake pop dough is at room temperature. It's been out on the counter for about 4 hours this morning. I took it out of the refrigerator. It is at room temperature. My chocolate I have already melted, and it has been sitting here coming to room temperature. I want my cake pop dough and my chocolate to be as close to temperature as possible so that I don't have any cracks in my chocolate. All right, let me get rid of this. Now, while they are setting up, we're going to create all the elements. Let's go ahead and grab our little penguin here. So we're going to need his feet. We're going to need his beak. We're gonna need his eyes. We're gonna need his hands or his arms on this side, and we're gonna need his coat. I'm gonna call that his coat. So we're gonna use 1 element, 2 element, 3 elements, 4 elements, 5 elements that we need. While we let our cake pop set up and harden that chocolate, we're gonna go ahead and create the elements. We're gonna start with the orange. So here is some modeling chocolate. I use modeling chocolate, which is simply melted chocolate and some corn syrup mixed together completely and then cooled down. And it's like playing with Play-Doh. All right, so I'm going to flatten it a little bit. I usually start the flattening process with my fingers. If it starts to get tacky, we use cornstarch. I'm just going to tap a little cornstarch here. Cornstarch will help pull some of that moisture away from that chocolate a little bit because I'm going to put it through my KitchenAid. I have the pasta press for my KitchenAid. So I'm going to do that so that I can flatten it. I want it to be kind of wide for my feet, so I'm going to use it at the widest mark. All right, so that's nice and smooth. I'm also going to do that with the black. So now we have that. We'll work with that. And the white we're going to use for his eyes. I only need a little bit. Again, I'm just going to flatten it out. Alrighty, let's go ahead and start with our white. We're going to use white for his eyes. I want that bulging eye look. Usually on my character cake pops, I am looking to accentuate some part of the caricature. So I've decided to make an elongated beak and some buggy eyes on this little guy. So in order to do that, I am using, here is my Wilton's icing tip. It is a number 6. I don't know if you can see that, but it's a number 6. So I'm just going to use that and pop out some of these little dots that we'll use to make his eyes. Again, I've got 2 that I'm making, so I need a total of 4 eyes, but I always use the rule 2 is 1, 1 is none, so I'm going to do a couple extra. Now I'm just going to take these and create little balls. All right, let's go ahead and cut one of these out. Now I have a teardrop. These have been around for 20 years. This is the Atco cutters, the teardrops, and you get 6 of them in there. I'm actually using the second one of the set, so if you guys know, if you guys have them, I'm using the second smallest one out of my set. So I'm going to go ahead and cut them. I need 2 of them. There's one. There's that spot. Oh, I flip it over. There's 2, and yeah, I'll get 3 of them out of there. All right, so those metal cutters usually leave some kind of an edge. I'm just smoothing that edge out. Now, what I'm going to do, just so you're aware, is these guys will go on, like here's his tail, and it'll wrap up around his head. But after it's dipped in chocolate, I want it to have a very nice smooth edge where it's connecting to my penguin, so it looks like it flows right in there. So what I'm going to do is just take my finger, if you need to use cornstarch so it doesn't stick, I'm really just going to push down on the edge and flatten it out. Now, if you guys make flowers, it would be the same principle if you're using, you know, your tools to flatten out your petals on your flowers. It's the same concept. And I'm pushing away from it, so I'm pushing out and pushing away just to flatten that edge. And I'm just going to do that all except for the little tip. I want that tip to have that point on there. And it doesn't have to be perfect. And that's it. We'll push that one away. Let's do that second one just in case. Let's go on to the orange. Now the orange we're going to use for his feet. So really all I'm going to use is this little leaf cutter, as you can see right here. So we're going to cut out 2 for each one. I'm going to use my little ball tool here, help get it out. I'm going to turn them around because the point is going to be where his heel is at. And turn them around. All right, so I'm just going to cut the very outside toes first. I'm just going to cut in a little bit more than 1/8 of an inch or so. I don't know if you can see that. All right, and then for the center one, I'm just going to create that toe. I'm going to cut this piece out like a pizza, and then I'm going to cut this one out. That's it. That's all we need to do for them. And then I'm just going to do the same thing for the other ones. All right, so here I have my clay extruder, and I'm using the circle tip. It's like the 1/4 of an inch circle tip, and we're going to use this to make his wings. So I'm just going to, and I have black modeling chocolate in there, so I'm just going to squeeze out some, like so. Cut that off. If you guys don't have one of these, you really should invest. They're like $10 on Amazon, and they come with a bunch of different tips, and it really saves a lot of time when you're making character cake pops. They, you know, it just really saves time, and I use it all the time. All right, so I'm going to cut about 1/2 of an inch off of my little rope, and I'm going to do 6 of them. I only need 4, but I'm going to use 6. All right, so I'm going to take my little piece, and I'm going to bring it to a point on both sides. Like so. Doesn't have to be a good point. And then I'm just going to flat, I want a flat side on it. So I'm just holding it down and a flat side, like that. Then I'm going to push that point down. I want it rounded, but it needs to have a flat side so we can actually shape his arm. Oh, it's sticking. There we go. All right, so the spot that I want to connect to the top of his, it's easier to do this way, where I want it to connect, I want to actually cut an angle like this, and then just smooth that out so we'll be able to put it on our penguin with a nice smooth look, that it's not sticking out away. So there's one. We're going to do the same thing. Now when you're doing this, make sure that you're cutting them at opposite angles. Like this one here, I have a cut going this way, so this new one, I want to go the opposite direction. It'll be on the other side of his arm, and then just smooth that piece down. I'll come back and make 2 more, but let's go ahead and dip our cake pops, because at this point, now that they're both at room temperature, I should be able to dip them very easily. So let me move my napkin out of the way. All right, so in order to dip our cake pops, this is what we're going to do. We're going to hold it at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to drop it in the chocolate. I'm going to pull it towards me. I'm going to do it quickly. We don't want to leave it in the chocolate very much, but we are going to spin it until the chocolate touches itself. Make sure that the chocolate reaches your lollipop stick so we cover the whole entire thing. Drop it, spin it, pull it out, just like that. Super simple. I'm going to grab my little palette knife, another handy dandy tool to keep in the kitchen. Make sure that you get something for those little tiny bubbles. If you don't have one of these, a toothpick will work just fine. All right, I'm just going to shake it, and I'm going to spin it at the same time, guys. I don't want to pound it on the side of my tin, because that, you know, when you're talking physics, if I do a sharp jarring, it's going to crack that chocolate on the inside of my cake pop, and it's going to fall off. So all I'm going to do is lightly tap it on my finger, and I'm going to spin it at the same time. When I spin it, I want to keep that chocolate fluid. I want to keep it at just an angle that it's falling off of my cake pop. And I'm going to, if any of those air bubbles in there, you want to make sure that you are popping them as well. You do not want them to pop as your chocolate dries, because that creates the opportunity for bacteria to start growing on your cake pop because you've failed to get all those bubbles out. All right, just making sure that I have all those air bubbles popped, and then I'm going to take that excess off the bottom. Okay. All right, let's do the other one real quick. At this point, we can't do too much with our characters until this chocolate dries. So, because we're gonna, a lot of times I will take and add my elements just as I'm doing it. I like to use that wet chocolate as my glue, but because of the type of elements that we're gonna put on here, the only thing that we can add to these are our little feet. And I'll just do one set because I want the other set for the other ones. So while it's wet, I'm just going to put it right beside the lollipop stick and push it down. This is how you use your wet chocolate as glue, just like this. And as you can see, it's right on both sides of the stick. And then we're just going to let that set up. All right. Now, I went ahead this morning and created a couple that were already dipped and ready to go. So these ones have been dipped since this morning. So we're going to use these to finish out our penguins. So the first thing I want to do, actually, is, where's it at? Oh, so on my penguins here, I have the little white dots, but behind it, I'm using a little bit of luster dust, and it's going to be a silver foliage. So right here, I have a silver foliage. And what this is going to do is create some dimension on my cake pop that really will cause those eyeballs to look like they're popping out. So this is a silver foliage, and all I'm going to do is create a little spot here that's highlighted for his eyes, and I want to do that first, like so. Oh, you know what I forgot to make? Is his little beak. Let's go ahead and make a beak real quick. All right, so I got my orange. You just soften it up a little bit. I'll show you how to make a beak. Now, I should have done it when I did the rest of the elements. I just totally missed it. So I just want a little piece. Let's do like just a little piece. And then I'm just going to use my fingers to make a triangle. See that? So I'm squeezing it down, and then I'm using my fingers to make that triangle piece, like so. Okay. Now, I'm going to use my thumbs. I want a point in the center of his beak. I don't know if you can see that. My hands are hot, so I got to move quickly. I'm going to squeeze it down. I want to keep that triangle look. All right, and at this point, just that's what it should look like. I'm going to use some white as glue. Right below where I put that gray, I'm going to add my beak, and I'm going to push it onto my cake pop. And all I'm doing is getting that excess white chocolate out from underneath. And then I'm going to take my knife again, and I'm going to create his beak. I'm going to open up his beak. All right, that's it, just like that. I'm going to take a little bit of a dab of white chocolate. And I'm going to grab my little white dot and I'm going to drop it on there. I'm going to flatten it just a little bit, right up against his beak. Although I got some chocolate that's sneaking out from behind there, I'm just going to wipe that off. Let's do the other side real quick. Just a little bit of a dab of chocolate. Grab another one. Maybe. Goodness. Drop that one on there, and I'm just going to push it down, trying to keep that rounded look up against his beak, like so. Pull that excess white chocolate off there. All right, so now we got this part done. While I'm here, I'll just go ahead and put his feet on. I'm just going to use a little bit of chocolate on both sides of the stick, like so. So here's one. Here's the other one, just right on both sides of the stick. So now we have his feet. The only thing we have left to do is we're going to switch hands here a minute. All right, so remember we flattened this. This is the side I want showing, so I'm going to flip it over. I want to leave the tail sticking out like this. We're going to use water because I'm directly putting it on my cake pop. The only thing that's going to stick off is this bottom corner. So I just want to lightly add a little bit of water. It'll create that glue. All right. I'm going to show you how to do this and manipulate this. And once you learn this concept, you'll be able to do this for a lot of different cake pops. I'm going to start at where his tail is at. Okay. And I'm just going to leave it lay right like that. I'll lay it right on there. Actually, that tail's sticking off a little bit too far, so let's pull it up just a little bit. I'm just going to lay it on top of there. And I'm going to flip it over so I can see what I'm doing. Make sure it's even. It's not, so I'm going to shift it. I'm looking for evenness of the chocolate on both sides. And then I'm going to pull it forward like a cape. Okay, and I'm just going to smooth that down. Smooth that down. I don't want that smoothed down. I want that to stick out. All right. Now I'm going to pull the front forward like this. Now, I know you're looking at this going, what am I going to do? Watch what I do. I'm going to bring it. I don't want the two chocolate pieces to touch, but I want to bring it to a point right here. Now, if you guys were good in geometry, you understand what I'm doing. All right, so I'm going to cut this with a straight line where this point comes together. See that bubble right there? I'm going to cut it right here, straight line. And then I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to flatten it down and flatten this. Now from here, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Pull that out. I'm going to lay that flat. So now we have the flat spot on the top. You'll see right where the bridge of his nose is. And I'm going to mark where I want this to go. And I'm just going to do a circle to where it is aligned with the side of his face. See that? And then I can cut this straight off the top. And when you smooth that together, it is just really that simple. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to spin it around this way. Maybe you'll be able to see a little better. Right there, and let me pull that off so you see. Right here at the center of his nose. I'm just going to come up around, give him like an eyebrow, if you will, and then connect it with where it is on his body, on the downside. And then from there, this piece right here where it connects, you can cut that off. Whoops, I missed it. Let's try it again, right there. Now, on this one, I cut it a little bit too high. Do you see that white spot in there? But this is the benefits of having modeling chocolate. Watch what happens. Modeling chocolate, just push up a little bit, push down a little bit, and all of a sudden, it comes together, and you never even know what was there. All right, so this one here I need to fix just a little bit because I have crappy cutting skills. And then I'm just going to get that chocolate out of there, that chocolate out of there, and there we go. You got your penguin. I'm just smoothing out the edges, like so, wiping off my finger marks, like that. See, that was super simple. Well, it is after the first time you do it. The first time is always going to be tough, but after you know what you're doing, it actually comes together pretty simple. I'm here to challenge you. All right, so let's go ahead and look at his little arms. In my little piping bag is just plain black candy wafers that I've melted. I'm going to use it as my glue. I'm going to pick up my arm, and right at the very top, I'm just going to add a little chocolate for glue. And let's see, this one goes on this side. I'm just going to glue them here. Obviously, I put a little bit too much chocolate on there. We'll just wipe that off. And we'll do the same with this one. Just right at the tip. Not so much this time. We'll just put them right here at the shoulder. Like so. So all I'm going to do right now is take my little puppy paint, and I'm just going to give him a pupil. And that is it, guys. All right, so there you go, guys. Just showed you how to put together a very super cute penguin. And of course you can put little tufts of hair on, like I did on this little guy. And that's just taking some chocolate and making little tiny strands and using some chocolate, wet chocolate, to glue it on the top. All right, have an amazing Tuesday, guys. Be creative, step outside of your box. You guys can do this, I know you can. That's why you're here. Until then, I'll see you next month for the next tutorial.